New York has been buzzing this past week with Gov Ball, Wu-Tang Clan sparking a historic Knicks comeback, the $1 Phoebe Bridgers MSG show, and more. Plus, Olivia Rodrigo's new album featuring The Cure's Robert Smith is here. I'm Dave, I'm here with Andrew, and we talk about all this and more on today's episode of BV Weekly. What's up, Andrew?
What's up, Dave?
You must be tired.
Yeah, I couldn't fall asleep last night. We're recording Thursday morning, so I couldn't fall asleep Wednesday night.
We are recording Thursday afternoon, actually, at this point.
That's true. It feels like morning to me, but it's already afternoon. And last night was the Knicks' historic comeback in the NBA Finals against the Spurs, which helped me, which stopped me from being able to fall asleep at a normal time.
That was an amazing game.
Yeah. And I think, because it's a music podcast, we got to give credit to the Wu-Tang Clan.
I wish they showed that, their whole performance on TV. Unfortunately, they
never show the halftime shows on TV.
Yeah.
Just these regular, But it's, it's another reason to go to the game, obviously. And
easier said than done last night. Going to the game.
Right. Of course. But, another nice reward for paying $20,000.
Not all of us are Taylor Swift and Haim.
Right.
And Somber. Somber was on the list of all the celebrities that were at the game, was floating around the internet, and Mumford & Sons was there, Tate McRae, Taylor Swift, and Haim, obviously front row. They got a lot of attention on camera. And I saw them, or at least I saw their social, but Somber was also on that list. I didn't see him.
No, I didn't see him on TV. I just saw the usual suspects like Ben Stiller, Adam Sandler, Timothy Chalamet, Larry David. Obviously, like you mentioned, Taylor Swift front row with Haim. It's funny because the announcers didn't even mention Haim by name. They were just like Taylor Swift. And it's like, they're probably like with two friends, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people had just two friends. They wore matching shirts that they put clever Knicks puns in and on for the occasions.
Stevie Nicks, Nickelback, and I forget the other.
Right.
With a K. So Cardi B played the halftime show at Game 3, which the Knicks lost. But Wu-Tang Clan played the halftime show at Game 4, where the Knicks made an unprecedented comeback. They were down 27 at the half, and then Wu-Tang Clan comes out and plays the halftime show. They play Bring the Ruckus, Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, Method Man, Cream, and then Method Man says Knicks in 5. Now, if you're not a sports person, the only way Knicks in 5 could possibly become true is if the Knicks were to win last night, because otherwise, if the Knicks won the series, they would have to do it no less than 6 games. You need 4 to win. They play 7 games. And so Method Man says Knicks in 5 when they're down 27 at halftime. And the largest deficit that a team has ever come back from in the NBA Finals before last night is 24 points. It was the Celtics in, I think, 2008. So Method Man just makes this wild remark. But again, they just performed their New York City, blood, sweat, and tears. They're nothing to fuck with, just like the Knicks. And the Knicks come out and give the most legendary second half performance.
If there's at least one thing to take away from that, it's that Knicks fans like yourself are very superstitious.
Well, I actually try not to be. But here's what I'll say, because again, it's a music podcast. And if you're like, I don't like sports and I don't want my music podcast to talk about sports, I get it. A lot of music people don't like sports. It's a phase I had for many years.
No, it was a Wu-Tang concert. Is there any footage of Taylor Swift watching Wu-Tang? Do we know what she did at halftime?
I haven't seen that.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, that would be cool. If it was the Grammys, we know she would be pretending to like it or something. But Taylor Swift, I got to give her credit because, she's a very, her exterior, what her public-facing persona can seem very carefully crafted to make sure nothing goes wrong, and she just left the game just dancing and screaming with other Knicks fans in the streets.
Oh, with an entire camera crew following her, which was then posted in curated clips on the NBA's official socials.
It seemed very, I don't know, it just seemed unscripted, unrehearsed.
She was definitely having fun. She was,
yeah.
I don't think she was faking that.
Yeah.
But it's not like she just walked out without security guards on her, got on the subway. And
yeah. And she didn't bring her fiance, Travis Kelce, who she was at the Knicks Cavs game with. I guess Travis is a Cavs fan. And I don't know, maybe Taylor had to keep it inside that she secretly was happy the Cavs lost that game to the Knicks.
Oh, you know who else was? Rihanna and A$AP Rocky were there, which I guess they were inside. I saw footage, but there's also video of them on the street, and that I don't know how staged that was, but they did. There's like somebody sets up a truck with a basketball hoop outside. I don't know if it's for charity or something, and Rihanna makes the basket with A$AP Rocky like cheering her on. That video is also spreading around. Anyway,
I haven't seen that one, but yeah, lots of musicians at the game. Lots of musicians are at a lot of these games. Fat Joe is at tons of Knick games. To finish my thought, if you're like, I don't care about sports, this is a music podcast. It's Brooklyn Vegan. Brooklyn's in the name. It's also a New York podcast, a New York publication. And nothing is more New York City than the Knicks right now, I think. I mean, there's a few reasons, right? Like basketball is a city sport. New York is a one-team city. It's not split like Mets Yankees and Jets Giants.
That is not true. Brooklyn Nets.
You think the Brooklyn Nets count? The New Jersey Nets? Have you ever been to a Knicks Nets game? It's a Knicks home game.
I mean, factually speaking, we have two teams, but go on.
Don't let facts ruin a good narrative. So it's a one-team city.
Listen, Phoebe Bridgers only played one show at the home of the Knicks, but she has 3 upcoming shows at the home of the Nets.
No, the home of the Liberty is where those shows are at.
Oh.
I'm telling you, you go to a Knicks Nets game, it's a home game for the Knicks. There are no Brooklyn Nets fans. So anyway, all of that. And what is more New York than being down, so down, and saying, I'm scraping out? That is a New York mentality, from the reason that artists come here in the first place to, just the guy who runs the deli, to just all the stuff, everything about New York. That's a New York mentality. And it's just the most New York thing to do. The Knicks mentality this whole series has been 0-0. It's always 0-0. The score is 0-0. The series is tied at 0, meaning you're never down too much to come up and win, and you're never up too much to fail.
It took Geese 3 albums,
Exactly. You know what? I got to say, I was afraid of sounding so corny, but I was thinking about Geese. Geese have that same, I love that Geese record, the third one, Getting Killed, or fourth technically. And sometimes on that album, I'm like, Cameron Winter had to have had his head so far up his own ass to have written a lyric like this. In a way, that's kind of like the Knicks being like, we're down 27 at halftime and we're going to come out in the second half and take this game. To know that that's possible. Like Cameron is like, I'm going to enter the rock pantheon and make references to things I shouldn't be referencing and assert myself in a way that a lot of people might say I shouldn't assert myself. That's that New York mentality that the Knicks had on display last night.
Should we move on to other things that happened at Madison Square Garden this past week?
Sure.
Like Phoebe's $1 show, which actually, unfortunately, Amanda, who was the one Brooklyn vegan person who actually went to that show, is currently at jury duty, where, like that Phoebe show, she is not allowed to have her phone. So she's currently in phone-free jury duty after attending the phone-free Phoebe show. And so she can't tell us about it. But you can read her review on Brooklyn Vegan. And then, this Phoebe played a lot of new songs. We're still standing by for Phoebe to announce that new album. Hopefully it doesn't happen by the time this episode goes live, so that this is still factually correct. Phoebe has since, as I implied earlier, announced a bigger tour, which again comes to arenas this time, at least in Brooklyn, 3 nights at Barclays Center. It's like multiple nights in many cities. She just added a second night in Nashville. So yeah.
And there are also no phone shows.
Oh, right. That's the big story. No phone shows.
Well, it's only the big story if you believe the Twitter feeds, I guess. But
it's still, whether it's a big story no matter what, because how many artists on that level are announcing this large arena tour with no phones? Is Tool doing? I don't think we had to lock up our phones at Tool.
It wasn't
did
a
we?
Yonder Pouch show, but it was a they will eject you if you use your phone show. And they meant it. I saw people get ejected.
Right. I forgot about that.
Which I think, in a way, like I get Yonder Pouches for like comedy because you're going to leak what's about to become a Netflix special. But I kind of like how Tool gives you the willpower. They're just like, this is the rule, follow it. If you don't follow it, you're getting kicked out. And like, and rather than being like, we don't trust you, so we're just going to lock it up. But I've refused to believe that the quote unquote discourse about no phones concerts being in some way like somehow oppressive to the fan base. I refuse to believe actual people believe that. I think it is either internet trolls or bots or like, I don't know, 14-year-olds with Twitter accounts, and I not engaging with people whose front lobe is that underdeveloped on this topic.
I mean, most importantly, nobody's forcing you to go to a Phoebe Bridgers show if you're that against locking up your phone for a couple.
And
hours.
all the points made are so ridiculous. I'm just like I can't even believe I'm acknowledging it here, but I guess it's like, it is hard. You open your phone and you look at social media and you're just like all these takes on this thing. And I'm like, okay, like I don't want to engage, but like, wow, I just keep seeing it. But yeah, it's ridiculous and makes no sense. And, I'm not even going to explain why, because if you don't understand why, then you just figure it out on your own. It's not my job to explain that. But yeah, like you said, we would have loved to have talked to Amanda about this since we can't. I think the main point that she kept reiterating in her review that I'll say is she kept saying, despite it being an arena, Phoebe truly made it feel like an intimate show. I know what she means. I felt that when I saw Radiohead at an arena for the first time, although I'm sure this felt even more intimate in a lot of ways. And there was other artists I've seen where that's the feeling I get. Frank Ocean headlining festivals gave me that. So I could picture what she meant. I heard that one of the new songs is a country song. Makes sense. Everybody's going country. Why shouldn't Phoebe? But yeah, I'm really excited. I hope, like you said, I hope the new album's not announced in the next 12 hours because I don't want this to be instantly outdated conversation. But the buzz for Phoebe is obviously magnetic right now. So I'm excited to find out what the new chapter of Phoebe Bridgers is like, especially if there's a country song, because it's no secret that I'm into the country pivots that have been happening.
And so with Phoebe announcing that show in New York happening this past Thursday or a week ago on Thursday, it was the night after we last recorded, and some theorized or hoped maybe she would show up at Governor's Ball, which started the next day, the 3-day New York City festival in Queens. And some theorized maybe she would show up at the Bright Eye show, which was 2 days later, also in Queens at the not as big as MSG, but also very big Forest Hill Stadium. And neither of those things happened. No Phoebe at Bright Eyes, no Phoebe at Gov Ball, no Phoebe at the Knicks games either.
And Taylor Swift at the Knicks game, but not at the Phoebe show.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Taylor, you couldn't have given one of those seats to Phoebe. It had to be Haim.
I'm thinking though, like, Taylor, you're in the city the next night. Like, I guess it was like 6 days later. But whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You're probably around. Sing with Phoebe on stage. That would have been.
That's all right. That's fine. I mean, she's not a fan. She shouldn't waste a seat.
I'm talking about Taylor coming out on stage to sing with Phoebe.
Oh, that part.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I'm saying she's in New York. I guess it was like 6 days apart, but who knows? Maybe she got here early. That would if Phoebe's doing a no phones thing, and can you imagine Taylor Swift sings with Phoebe and no one's allowed to record it? Now that is a flex.
So Amanda also 2 days later went to the tragic Bright Eye show. I say tragic because this was the third of 3 Bright Eye shows around the country where they were performing on Wide Awake, It's Morning, and Digital Ashen and Digital Urn. Unfortunately, at this show, the rain got in the way of the second album performance, and as well as in the way of Built to Spill getting to play their set. So it was just an on Wide Awake, It's Morning show. This show also streamed live on Veeps, so that was unfortunate there. Meanwhile, Connor has announced that he is devastated and feels really bad. I feel bad for him. Bright Eyes are, quote, reeling and devastated about having to cut the Forest Hills show short. But he's also devastated financially because they announced that they actually refunded every single person that went to that show.
Right.
But, and then so Gov Ball and Forest Hill Stadium are really close to each other, both just like pretty close on the subway in Queens, and far for me personally to get to both of them. But Gov Ball also got cut short on that same Saturday. And I did not personally get impacted by that. Well, I guess we sort of did because we had a photographer there on Saturday who had to rush out of there. But I went to Gov Ball on Sunday, the day that also had a slight rain delay. I got there in time around 1 p.m. in time to see Slayyyter's 1:30 p.m. set. And right as Slayyyter was about to come out, just one day after Gov Ball got cut short, Slayyyter's show, they announced on stage that everyone should get away from stages because the show was on hold due to storms in the area. So it happened again, but it only lasted maybe around 20 minutes, and then the show started again. So actually they didn't even have to change the set times or anything. I think maybe Slayyyter played a shorter set.
Yeah, I feel like Slayyyter was kind of this year's Chapel Roan in that I couldn't believe how early she was still playing, given how her album was. We just talked about last week. It's Stereogum's album of the year. It's super popular. And I guess the festivals aren't going to rearrange their set times, but how was she? And was the crowd as massive as social media made it look?
She was good, but I was excited to see her for the first time. I had watched her Coachella stream, which I really liked. So I kind of feel like I almost had a spoiler, and also spoiled a little bit because when you're watching the stream, it's super focused just on the stage. And so it's a different experience of being down below this huge festival stage, which I was. So I was also really close, relatively speaking. And for that reason, I couldn't tell how big the crowd was. Just a few rows from, there was like a big barrier photo pit between the stage and the people. And she was playing on the main stage, which was shockingly high to me, like high off the ground to me, who's not used to being at festivals lately. So I don't remember when the last time I went to a big festival like this was, but that being the first set of the day for me, and I'm standing there and I'm just like, I have a really good spot, but I still feel like Slayyyter is a million miles from me. It was like it took getting used to. I think I ended up, watching like 10 hours of performances at Gov Ball, and I got used to it. But this was a little off-putting at first. Well, I just want to say though, at this fest, I saw Slayyyter into Fcukers, into Geese, into Clipse, into Hot Mulligan. Like what? It was an amazing experience overall. The lineup on Sunday was amazing. So overall, just great. But my favorite sets of the day, to the point I was just making, were all on the sides, on the third smallest stage. And I just, mathematically speaking, however you want to explain it, I feel like that probably has more to do afterwards collectively. Like if I put it all together, it must have more to do with the vibe of the smaller stage than the artist specifically. So like, I can rank my favorite sets of the day, and like my 3 top are all on the side stage, even though I was just as excited as the artists on the main stage. So I'm going to assume that's played a big part of it. But like my favorites, I also have that weird thing where if I love an opener, I don't think like the chemicals return to my brain as much. Like if I have a great experience on it, I have this problem all the time. If I go to see, especially at metal shows where bands can sound a little similar to each other, and if it's like the second band on the bill and I love them and I just have that perfect experience, the headliner, no matter how much I love them, is just sometimes never gets there in my mind, just because like I already had that rush. I don't know. Fcukers on the side stage may have been kind of an early favorite set of the day. I just love Fcukers. As the 5th time I've seen them, but the first since the new album came out. So first time I saw a lot of those new songs live. They just do it for me on so many levels. I love them. They make me dance, which is, you know, I don't always find myself doing these days. And, well, not counting like jumping around a mosh pit, but I love Fcukers. And then, you know, I love Geese. I was super excited to see Geese again, but the rock set that really got me going that day was on the side stage, Hot Mulligan. I already knew I was a big Hot Mulligan fan lately after seeing them at Brooklyn Paramount, same place I saw Geese at last. Hot Mulligan, they had an actual mosh pit going, actual people going crazy. Their fans are wild. Hot Mulligan's also a funny band, as you know. And so I think they inspire this wackiness in people, but also their stage banter. They kept telling people, all right, so full disclosure, I did have access to the VIP side. You know, this is the festival's got GA and VIP, and on VIP you can go to the left side of the stage and GA on the right. And it's awkward, especially for artists looking at the stage. There's this clear separation of these areas. And occasionally you do hear bands call that out from stage. This is not the first time I saw it. Hot Mulligan were very much being hilarious about that. To my credit, I did not go into VIP to watch Hot Mulligan, because when I ran over there, I was like, I'm not watching the punk band in VIP. They kept telling people to boo the VIP section. And then they realized there's even the more super VIP, which I did not have, which is like the pit viewing. So you can, if you have pit viewing, you can actually, it's like between the photo pit and the other sections, like you're actually, it's kind of like calling it front row. So you can go even closer. And at first they were like, he's like, I just realized there's even a more insane VIP section right here. And he was like, oh, those must be employees. Okay, don't boo them. They're employees. The employees are cool. But then as the show went on, he's like, actually, fuck it. Boo the employees. And he starts having everybody boo them too. It was super fun.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that they like went over so well, because I mean, they're doing the festival circuit this year. They're kind of like the one band representing emo and pop punk in like the sort of general festival world. And I think that they totally earned it, like, because they are also the biggest and one of the best, if not the best right now. So it's cool that they're the ones getting the opportunities. And it's also cool that people are into it, because like, I think it's pretty easy to imagine a world where the Gov Ball attendee either just has never heard of them, so they don't even check them out, or if they did check them out, they'd be like, whoa, what is this like pop punk thing? No, thank you. So I think I mentioned this, I think, on an earlier episode, but my friend who primarily listens to electronic music saw Hot Mulligan at Coachella, and they were a standout for him. And so they just seem to have that thing. And it's like I'm like, yeah, of course, like I love them, but to hear that they have the thing for the people who aren't sort of like wired to love them like I am, it makes me happy.
They had definitely core fans there who knew all the words and were going crazy. And I was wondering, I wanted to go up to some of those people and be like, was it just Hot Mulligan that caused you to buy these really expensive festival tickets for today? I feel like their crowd would have been also bigger if they were more evenly matched with anyone else on the bill, which they really weren't. But yet they still had a decent crowd, and especially, like I said, these core fans, and a really fun mosh pit of people just doing wacky things, like the kind of crowd where 100 people are able to quickly organize, like among themselves, everybody get down on your knees, and they all do, and then jump up together, like that kind of like at an Amon Amarth show when people row or something like that, where it's just like the crowd figures it out and starts doing these funny things.
No, a lot of people compare Hot Mulligan to Amon Amarth.
So that's a Viking metal band if you don't know them. So then my top three sets, Fcukers, Hot Mulligan, and Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist. Freddie Gibbs just rapping his ass off on the third stage as well.
Freddie Gibbs in your top three, and you saw Clipse that day.
So that's what's crazy. So on the bigger stage, I saw, and these are like in my next three are Slayyyter, Clipse, and Geese. They all kind of I don't know. Help me out as someone who can describe rap better. Freddie Gibbs is rapping his ass off. Alchemist is super fun to watch and definitely adds to the show. But Clipse is I don't want to be negative. I don't want to say phoned in. This is awesome. And it was the first time I saw them since the new album, which I know every word to.
Yeah, I feel like they do rap their asses off.
They do. All right. I don't know how to say it then.
That's why I'm kind of like, whoa, okay. I mean, like, both are Clipse and Freddie Gibbs are both incredible.
Clipse
and
are incredible, but Clipse,
I know that you're not dissing them. Although it sounds like
Clipse feels more scripted, more main stage, more. Clipse played 5 minutes less than their time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that helps explain it, which was good because I needed to get to Hot Mulligan. But Clipse also had this booming. The bass was so loud on Clipse. I think the sound on the main stages might be part of it for me too. The booming. I'm definitely not a too old, too loud guy.
No, I mean, one of your top 3 sets was a pop punk band.
And I go to metal shows multiple metal shows a week.
Right.
But I think that something about the booming bass on Clipse was like distracting. Sound issues, I guess. So anyway, and Slayyyter was great. But again, it took getting used to this big stage. And then I think the bigger story, I loved seeing Clipse, don't get me wrong. And especially it was great to see all the songs from the new album. Because I'd seen Clipse months before the new album was even announced. So I'm comparing. But Geese was my biggest disappointment of the day. And again, I don't know if it was them, maybe it was me. But I went into Geese with such high expectations because when I saw them at Brooklyn Paramount, I was talking about it like it was a religious experience or something. And I've been so pro Geese. And this time I was like, okay, I can't even believe I just came from the most amazing Fcukers set right after seeing Slayyyter. And now I'm about to see Geese. Can I even handle it? And then it didn't hit me in that way again. And in fact, so one super surprising thing about the Geese set, maybe it was sound issues too. It wasn't like, what do you know about the popularity of the song 2122 2122 off their?
Well, didn't Rush just play it the first time in 29 years? The joke is that Rush just played all of 2112 for the first time in 29 years this week. And every time I see that Geese song title, I think of the Rush song. This song is popular, you're telling me? So is it the jammy one?
I would call it jammy, and it's funny you bring up Rush and that it's named after, I guess it's named after Rush because it's definitely a very Led Zeppelin Rolling Stones song.
It might be. Right. Yeah, it's yes, I believe it is the one I'm thinking of.
It's a long song.
So I actually yeah. Just like the Rush song.
Yeah.
It's got to be a reference, I would think. But so I streamed Geese's set at Primavera Sound this weekend, which also got cut short due to rain. So Gov Ball, not the only festival dealing with weather, although Primavera Sound is in Barcelona, so it's not the same weather. But I thought they sounded amazing. And that song, which I also believe I watched on the live stream when they were at Coachella. As regular Beaver Weekly listeners know, my live music has been a lot of live streams lately because new dad and been home a lot. But so I've seen Geese on some live streams recently, and I've noticed that they really jam that one out in a very classic rock way. And I always think it's really cool. I always like that moment, and it makes me want to listen to 3D country more, but then I do, and I still kind of like don't love it as much as Getting Killed. But live, I think those songs come alive. Anyway, why did you ask me about that song?
Well, because, and I'm sure I saw them play it live at Brooklyn Paramount too. It's definitely one of the staples in their set. I think it felt more popular. Like the crowd reaction to that song, including people who knew the words, seemed bigger than the Getting Killed songs. And so that was super surprising. There's especially a big kind of bro-y contingent who were really rocking out and excited about that song in particular, and just made me question everything I thought I knew about Geese. And so
I have heard the Bros found Geese, but that's bound to happen when a rock band gets popular.
The narrative I'm questioning is that they got popular on Getting Killed, and that's the 3D Country. So,
Oh, well, I feel like we talked about this a year ago where like they were definitely already kind of popular from the last album, and it was like this steady you know, it was like a combination of things, including the fact that the previous record and his solo record were like sort of taking off.
right. So is it that the people who helped them get popular from 3D Country are heavily represented at festivals, or is it that they went back and that became a favorite song, or is it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that song in particular, but like I'm looking at their Spotify stats as we speak, and like, you know, they've got 3D Country songs in their top played tracks with more plays than some really popular Getting Killed songs. I think they're just both big albums, and I mean that song's it's track 1 on 3D Country, so like you got to figure anybody listening to that record is probably hearing that song a lot because you tend to start albums on track 1.
Yeah. Well, it's whatever it is, it felt like the hit in a lot of ways. And then whatever, I don't know. Some of the Getting Killed songs still did it for me at Gov Ball in a way, but mostly I was just like, didn't happen again in the way I hoped it would happen. Then I saw A$AP Rocky headlined, came out 20 minutes late. He got cut off at curfew, kind of predictable on both counts. His show was super over the top. I don't know if he was lip syncing or what, but because he was using a mic that was inside a megaphone, and then he had like a face mask on that covered his mouth. So he was speaking through a mask and into a megaphone, and it was an over the top stage show with like 200 if you want to call them dancers, extras. About half of them were dressed all in white and the other half were dressed as cops, and they were marching all over the stage and dancing like crazy and just running around, and he had fire going up and constantly, and so it was just kind of the over the top headliner show you expect. Compare that to Slayyyter, which even though she had a backing band and it's daytime, they were super back on this huge stage, the guitarist, bassist, and drummer. So, and then Slayyyter is just running around herself with a mic around the stage. And then compare that to it's dark, and now the headliner comes out and there's 200 people running around on stage and fire. And that's like, I think, much like we talk about with the huge sets at Coachella, I guess that's what you expect from a headliner at Gov Ball. And Jennie, who K-pop Blackpink member, headlined the other big stage right before A$AP Rocky went on. I caught the last 3 songs of her set, which was bonus because that's probably she closed with the hit or whatever it is. So I got to see that. And she also had a lot of dancers on stage. And like sense. Risers, A$AP Rocky and Jennie both have like
Jennie, who helped give Tame Impala their first top 10 hit.
Oh yeah. So it was cool to see Jennie. And then other notable things, Japanese Breakfast ran over to her.
I was going to ask, did you see her debut the baby bump, J Preggie?
I absolutely did. It was pretty obvious from the second I ran over. In fact, I texted some people, is it a known thing? And yeah, she quickly confirmed it in many videos, as if it wasn't already obvious from her outfit.
Yeah, I mean, she was wearing an exposed belly outfit. Yeah. So if you
but you never want to assume out loud. But then
no, but it was pretty. She made it clear.
Yes,
on purpose.
It was an announcement.
Think, yeah.
And then Blood Orange, whose set was supposed to be Saturday but got cut because of the rain, got added last minute to Sunday. So I saw a few songs of him. I wish I could have seen Dev's whole set, but that was cool what I saw. And I just ran around. I saw like a few minutes of Dominic Fike, a few minutes of Holly Humberstone, a few minutes of Between Friends. So it was a super fun day. I was happy to go and be there, and I saw a lot of people, caught up with some people that I know. So yeah, it was a fun day at the festival. I'm glad I got to.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had a good time. It was my first year not at Gov Ball in as far back as I can remember. So I'm glad you were there.
And it was my first time at that location. So Gov Ball has switched locations a few times, which means that I know it's been there for years. So it was my first time, I guess, at Gov Ball in years, even though I feel like I've been there a bunch of times.
And it's at Flushing Meadows Corona Park still, right?
Yeah. And it used to be right before that. It was it right next door at Citi Field in the parking lot?
Yeah, the Citi Field parking lot, which was one of my least favorite locations for Gov Ball. I love it in Flushing Meadows Corner Park. I think it's the home it was always supposed to have, even though it's called Governor's Ball because it started on Governor's Island. I know they wanted to be a Queens festival for a while, and I just think it's a perfect place to throw it. So I'm so glad they're there, and I love that location for Gov Ball. And I'm different than you because I don't mind big festival stages. I'm also more used to them because, again, I go to more of these things than you do. So I think it's, and that's the other thing too, right? Is the only time I remember having a severe complaint about Gov Ball was the really bad sound issues for Billie Eilish headlining in the Citi Field parking lot,
which I was at with you.
You were at that with me when Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist also played that year.
That was the 2 times I've seen Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, they very rarely, they don't like do tours.
No, didn't they just toured together though? They played.
They just did it. But like the last, but they didn't do a tour when they did that first album.
Right.
Well, it came out during COVID, but they didn't do a tour when shows came back. They just did festivals. And then Freddie Gibbs toured without Alchemist. And it was like, anyway, all this is to say, I have never experienced sound issues at the Flushing Meadows Corona Park location. And, full circle, to go back to my whole Knicks thing, I feel like Flushing Meadows Corona Park is like a place for, well, it's going to sound snobby, but New Yorkers sound snobby is what we do. It's a place for real New Yorkers. It's like, it feels like, it just feels, like real Queens, and it should have a music festival. And, Randall's Island felt like not that, that's like, so this feels like that. And even Central Park, it's like, if they were to do it, that's cool, obviously, but something about Flushing Meadows Corona Park is like, like Paul Simon played there. And when he did like the Queen of Corona lyric and everybody lost their minds because it's like, we're in Corona and you're singing about Corona and we know that. And your fans outside of New York probably have no idea what Queen of Corona even means. It's some real New York shit.
And it's if you're coming from out of town, it's cool to see. It's a different.
Yeah, it's right by the World's Fair.
Yeah, the World's Fair stuff is all around.
You see the World's Fair stuff in the background.
Yeah, it's a cool. They have art installations, but then that stuff is already there.
Exactly. So, like I said, Geese also played Primavera Sound. I streamed their set. It was awesome. And you know who else played Primavera Sound? Olivia Rodrigo with a surprise 11-song set that included the debut of the Robert Smith collaboration, What's Wrong With Me, from her new album, which is out today. But prior to that debut, no one knew he was on the record.
We did know that she had a song called The Cure, and we did know it was almost like this Cure rollout with this album, because first came the news.
Although she insists the song is not about, has nothing to do with the band, even though no one believes that. And she has the lyric. The first single had the lyric, you know all the words to Just Like Heaven, but I know what he's singing about, or something like that. And then the second single is called The Cure. And we know that Olivia and Robert Smith have sung together. I think they've sung Just Like Heaven together, right? And so now he is on her song, on her album, and they debuted it at Primavera Sound during an unannounced set. The Cure played the festival, announced, had an unbelievable set list with the perfect mix of deep cuts, hits, the songs from the incredible new record. And then Olivia, unannounced, plays the festival, debuts this song, and now, days later, her album is here with that song.
Yeah, so you've heard the whole album. I still haven't as of this recording, but I have listened to both singles, and then I did watch the video with Robert Smith, which was more chill-inducing than anything I watched at Gov Ball. And it was just an amazing moment. She's like, we're talking about authentic pop stars doing authentic things. This just felt, her excitement for Robert Smith coming up just felt so authentic. And it's just so cool that this 23-year-old is putting so much respect on bands like The Cure. And I think right after he played the song, which was amazing, it already feels, just from watching the video once, it felt like one of my favorite songs of the year. I couldn't believe, she said, I can't believe that's a thing that happened in the real world and not just a figment of my imagination. She said this out to the Primavera crowd and on the stream as right after Robert left the stage, she kept saying, please give it up for Robert. And then a very 23-year-old thing to say, she ended with, I can't wait for you to have that on your phones when the album comes out. Having a song with Robert Smith, quote, on your phones. It's a very modern way to put it. But then
no, that's like a 2008 thing.
Oh, come
Who has
on.
music on their phone?
Cure fans aren't talking about.
You just you just stream it though. You don't even download it. Like that's, I'm just saying, like that's even like an older mentality.
You're thinking she meant MP3s? Is that where you're going with this?
Why? How else would it be on your? Unless she meant like listen to it on your phone through your Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal apps. But if she said it came up for you to have it on your phone, sounds like a downloaded file to me.
That's not where my mind went. I think she meant that like that's how people listen to music now, on their phone. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're not listening through great headphones. So it's not necessarily implying that people are listening through a phone speaker. Like that's where I'm going with that. But I saw it as like, yeah, everything is a phone now. That's your music. You're not. She could have just went like, I can't wait for you to listen to it.
Can't wait for you to hear
have it, to stream it, to buy the CD.
Can't wait for you to buy the vinyl.
The vinyl, yes. But she went
CDs
with
are
on
coming
your
back
phones.
too.
It was really great. It was a great festival moment too.
It's so cool, like you said. And then, I mean, I think at this point, I think Olivia Rodrigo is the coolest current pop star. I think the competition, whoever the second coolest is behind Olivia. I don't know. It's just like nobody else. She just keeps doing more things to make her like so extremely interesting to, I feel snobby, but like the quote unquote cool music crowd. And I've said this about her last album when we talked about how good that one was. We'll forget if it was on a podcast or if we just had a conversation or wrote it on BV, like the website. But she just so perfectly toes the line between catering to like Gen X and older millennials' musical interests and then catering to Gen Z and Gen Alpha's sort of like life experiences. Like she's like, throughout her career, I've been in my late teens to early 20s, and I write about the experience of being like a young woman at that age. And if you're, and you don't have to look very hard, you go to see her live, the crowd is people that look like her, like sound similar age and and be like, oh, I'm relating to all your experiences. And then like the older people who are like, I'm not relating to getting a driver's license and having my first high school breakup, are like, oh my God, like this music sounds like my favorite bands, and like, and she just continues to find new ways to sound like so many cool, incredible bands that have never been as popular as a pop star like her. You just got to give her so much credit.
And yeah, The Cure, plenty popular for sure, but you can't like underestimate how huge that is for that band and their continued legacy for her to be introducing Robert Smith to her audience in this way.
I don't think it's like a hot take at all to say like The Cure are very popular, but not as popular as like a pop star.
Currently, I mean, most importantly, like we go back, well, even I don't even know if it's the genre as much. We talked about
then.
Oh, okay, maybe, but they're doing well on tickets when they tour. That's what I was gonna say. They are like Fish or something, or like the Grateful Dead, in that they'll play 3 nights at an arena in New York City, and yet I think if you ask the average person to name 3 Cure songs, it's like Friday I'm in Love, I know Just Like Heaven, but maybe like I'm not putting together that that's them, or like maybe that one comes up, and then I don't even know. Like, whereas like, if you're like, hey,
you go to like just a random person on the street and be like, name 3 Olivia Rodrigo songs, I feel like you're going to have an easier chance.
Sure. In 2026 especially. And like we said, when Sabrina Carpenter brought out Madonna.
Or if in the 90s, if you were to be like, yeah, right. Well, Madonna was someone who's bigger than The Cure in the 80s. And in the 90s, Britney Spears was bigger than The Cure. And like, you know.
We were worried that nobody cared or knew who Madonna was at Sabrina Carpenter's Coachella set.
Well, that did happen.
Right.
Because of age and generation.
And that's why I'm trying to make more of an age point, which is why it's so great that Robert Smith was getting much deserved attention when he was out on that stage.
Definitely an age. I mean, again, like I saw her at Governor's Ball, last year, the year before? I lose track of time. And she brought David Byrne out and they did Burning Down the House, like same kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, not only is there the factor that all the artists that she's bringing out, collaborating with, covering, repping in interviews are people whose sort of like peak moment in culture ranged from 30 to 45 years ago, and that Olivia's fans are like weren't born yet, right? So like that factor, of course, but it's also who she's picking. Like if Olivia Rodrigo is like, I'm bringing the Backstreet Boys and like, you know, Britney Spears on stage, it would not be as cool. You know, like it's not just older artists. Like it's like she's introducing the most pop of the pop sphere.
And who she genuinely seems a fan of.
Right. Like she seems, this is why I think like I was kind of thinking about this before the episode, because like I knew we'd be talking about this. And I was like, when I knew I was going to like make that claim that she's the coolest pop star right now. And in my head, I'm like, Dave's going to say, what about Miley Cyrus? And I kind of feel like Miley walked so Olivia could run in a way. Because I think Miley's also genuinely like, you know, a true pop star in the truest sense, who like really wants to listen to like Billy Idol and Joan Jett and, you know, like
take Flaming Lips out on tour.
Right. And make an album with them.
Make an album with them. Yeah.
And all that stuff. And I think she genuinely is that. But like Olivia does it in a way that's even more effortless and seamless to me, where it's just like, it feels like as she continues to elevate in terms of fame and stardom and understanding how to just be the moment, the zeitgeist, like just be a cultural absolute pop star icon of her time, the more she does that, the more she would like prefer to talk about Bikini Kill and Susie and the Banshees and New Order in her interviews. And if these things are happening simultaneously and they seem so genuine, and it's just like you're just watching like a young person develop like expand their music taste in front of the entire world, while also being such a successful pop star. And never like, because like with Miley sometimes gets like too weird for her. Like it's like Miley would be like, here's a big pop hit, and then my next record is like my rock stuff and it's not as big, you know, like, and it's like Olivia's like combining the two. She's like, I know this song is going to just grab the absolute pop zeitgeist, and it sounds like Gary Newman, or it sounds like the Smashing Pumpkins, you know, and it's like, no one's doing that.
Well, you've heard the entire album, so tell us, how much does it sound like Gary Newman?
The song Expectations sounds like Gary Newman. I think it's like, that's what I'm referencing, but that one is like a super 80s, like synth pop, new wave, post-punk. Like my mind went to Gary Newman. You said you haven't heard the record, but I did ask if what this reminded you of. You said Bananarama. I can hear that too, I think.
Just a few second clip you showed me, but yeah.
Yeah, I just showed you a clip of like the synth riff or whatever. And I was like, what? Like, because it reminded me of something so specific. And I'm like, I'm thinking Gary Newman, but it's a little faster than all the songs I was thinking of. So it's kind of like, you know, somewhere in the realm of like Gary Newman, Bananarama, Soft Cell, Devo, like that kind of stuff. And it's just fully that. And then again, Olivia starts singing and it becomes Gen Z pop. And it's just like, and not in that way where like, we've heard so many current pop stars sound like 80s pop, 80s music, whatever. It's like so in to do that. nobody sounds as edgy and like this song sounds like an artist who has just studied the depths of 80s new wave, not like, oh, Harry Styles' new single sounds like Take on Me. It's different. Like, and then, again, Robert Smith on the record, he's on the song What's Wrong With Me, like we said. I mean, that song, Robert's voice sounds ageless as always. It blends so well with Olivia's, interestingly. The song is pretty Cure-ish. It's not the most Cure-ish song on the record. The song You Plus Me Equals Less Than 3, with like the heart symbol, I think is the most Cure-ish. I hear a little Cure on a song called Maggots for Brains. The song My Way kind of, I feel, is a little bit of a mix between like new wave and 90s alt rock, like a little No Doubt in there, who Olivia has also played with on stage at Coachella. The song Purple, which was co-produced by Jimmy Stack, another indie rock person, I think it's basically an indie rock song. As we said, The Cure sounds like some mix between Smashing Pumpkins' Disarm and Foo Fighters' Everlong. So there's always like little references to that stuff. And that's where my brain like picks up on first. Whereas I'm sure, again, if you brought in somebody like half my age, they would just be telling you about like the lyrical content and how relatable it is. And it's like, this is why I think she's so fantastic, because like we're having these different experiences and they're both like as enamored with the music. So I think there's so much on there that is so appealing to fans of classic alternative rock from the 90s and 80s, and current pop, and she does it so well. And I feel like I had one more thing I was going to say that is right. Well, again, I'm Robert Smith, Jimmy Stack, but I do think even though it's their third of 3 albums together, I think we just have to once again bring up Dan Nigro. I mean, her producer and co-writer. I think Olivia is genuinely steering the ship. I'm not trying to give the credit to her producer over her, but I just think it's always worth a reminder that Dan is the singer of As Tall as Lions, early 2000s indie rock, kind of emo sometimes in the early days band. And I just think it's, it has to be, he's the perfect collaborator for her because he's like this older alternative rock person, right? And so when she probably comes to him and is like, let's make a song that sounds like Gary Newman for the Gen Z pop crowd, he's probably like, I know exactly how to do that. And they probably team up so well. And I just think it's, and he also produces a lot of Chapel Roan stuff. And so like, there's similarities there between what they're both doing. But yeah, I think it's worth bringing that up again, even though it's their third of 3 records together. I think it's a really cool album. I think it's probably going to be on a lot of year-end lists by the end of the year.
I just want to shout out Olivia's parents. There was just one quote that just came out, but which I'll say in a second, but it's been known that Olivia has said before that she grew up listening to her mom's music, like, quote, No Doubt, Pearl Jam, Green Day, and the White Stripes. And that her first concert, Olivia's first concert, was Weezer. Many of the people I just mentioned in that list, she has, like we said, collaborated with in recent times or brought out on stage.
Including Weezer.
Yes. And then...
unless, maybe, yeah. Go ahead, sorry. No. I'm like, maybe, I was like, maybe that was redundant to say, but go ahead.
No, Weezer, who also just announced their new album, which have their own collaboration with Wednesday, as we said last week. But they, so the newer quote, I don't know if it's actually new, but we just saw it, is Olivia said that her mom, when she came to Lollapalooza to see Olivia's headlining set, didn't actually watch her because she went to go see Korn, who was playing at the same time, which was an amazing little anecdote.
Yeah, no, I love that, especially because we talked when that lineup was either announced or happened. We were like, they had the shirt people were like bootlegging where it was like Olivia, what it was with like the Korn O or something like that. It was like a combo of their logos, and we were just like, I wonder how many people were trying to see both. And there's one person, her mother. Similarly, another thing that happened this week is on the topic of like, her cool references to cool older alternative music. Elvis Costello, in an interview with The Times, defended similarities between Brutal by Olivia and his own Pump It Up. And that's one of the many Olivia Rodrigo songs where you're like, oh yeah, the riff is really familiar if I know Pump It Up by Elvis Costello, but she turns it into like this new thing for this new generation. And he is very much has no interest in taking songwriting credits, has no interest in criticizing it. And he even said, this is my favorite part, I'm going to quote him. He said, how could I be arrogant enough to sue on the basis of originality when my song is based on Subterranean Homesick Blues? Did Bob Dylan sue me? He teased me about it, but didn't sue. And did Chuck Berry sue Bob because his song was like too much monkey business? And yeah, I just think what Olivia is doing is she's continuing the conversation. It's not ripping something off. She's continuing the conversation. She's reframing it for a new generation, just like Elvis Costello did when he did it to Bob Dylan, who did it to Chuck Berry, who probably did it to something else. So I have a question for you, although it might be too obvious, but I think it's a fun game and maybe I should have done it at a more unexpected time. And you're just going to probably know the answer, but this struck me as interesting. What do Olivia Rodrigo, Blink-182, Crystal Castles, Gorillaz, and Churches all have in common?
Olivia Rodrigo, Gorillaz,
Blink-182, Crystal Castles, and Churches.
I give up.
Not as obvious as I thought. All have songs featuring Robert Smith.
Right. Okay. That should have been easy.
Should have been easy. And it struck me as like, you know, what an amazing cosign it is to have Robert Smith. And of all the, like, find me someone as cool as him, as unpretentious, you know, like he's like, yeah, like I don't do a ton of collabs, but I will do them with Blink-182 and Olivia Rodrigo 23 years apart. You know, if he thinks the music's good, he does it. And I just love that for him.
Meanwhile, it's a great time for The Cure to get more popular because Robert Smith also just said in an interview that they have 2 more albums coming. And if you're having deja vu like I was, it's because before their 2024 album, The Great Songs of a Lost World, came out, there were all these constant quotes for years that The Cure had 2 albums coming. And then one finally came, so we knew there was still another one that was supposed to come, but now I don't know at which point that changed to actually it was 3 total albums. He said to the BBC that they wrote 3 albums worth of songs in 2019. That first album that came out in 2024 was one of them. They've since come out with a remix album of that album, and we should expect 2 more albums. If you listen to that BBC interview, he's also comparing, I think he said the second album that will be coming in the future is a little more poppy in the Olivia Rodrigo direction, but in a Cure way, not nearly as poppy, not nearly as fast. So that's exciting news too.
But don't hold your breath.
He said something like one of the albums already turned into Universal or just about to be turned in. Sure. I mean,
just don't hold your breath. That's all.
We got one so far, so that happened.
Yeah. How long did it take?
That's why I'm saying deja vu.
Mm-hmm. Like the Olivia Rodrigo song.
Boom. What do we got out this week?
Yes, the Olivia Rodrigo album.
What else do we have? Sorry. What else do we have out this week?
There's an 11-minute Yahweh Nailgun album, their first for 4AD. Speaking of albums that have taken forever to exist, there's the first Piebald album in 19 years. And as we've talked about on this show before, Piebald are one of the most underrated bands of all time in the indie rock, post-hardcore, emo, alternative rock space. So, like, no time like the present to fix the fact that you're not a Piebald fan, because if you are, then you already have this record queued up. Keeping stuff extremely New York. Wiki has a new album, one of our favorite local rappers. Soft Curse, the new metal band, sorry, not new metal, NU, the new NEW space metal band with members of State Faults that we talked about on the show recently. Their record's out this week. Other cool stuff. There's the new Kelsey Lou album, more doomy metal from Chemist. There's a new Genghis Tron. Bill in Indie Basement this week talks about, is it Las Securite?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. CFCF, Paycheck, spelled Paycheque, John Spencer. There's the new Yes album, although I think like Steve Howe is the only original member or something.
All right. go read Brooklyn Vegan and .com to get way more information on all those new albums in notable releases in Indie Basement. We also always put the links in the show description, so you could go there to click directly to notable releases in Indie Basement.
Yeah.
Although the show goes live hours before those posts go live each day, but that's only a problem for a few hours.
And I think, we said recently like that, sometimes it's like once the album kind of is out and settles in for a bit, you have more to say about it. So I just want to say that I really, really love the new Death Cab album so much. I think I haven't stopped playing it since it came out last week. I think that like it's almost a meme because I feel like every Death Cab album gets called the best Death Cab album since Narrow Stairs. But I think this is the most best Death Cab album since Narrow Stairs. I think it's so good. I think if you are checked out from Death Cab, but you love the many like classic records that they put out 20 to 25 years ago, you should make sure you don't miss this one.
It's solid. I've been playing it.
Nice. I didn't know. I actually didn't know if you had an opinion on it.
Oh yeah, no, I like it. That's about as far as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the new Modest Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, they came out the same day, and they're both the first independent records. Death Cab on Anti now, Modest Mouse, I think their own label after years and years and years of being indie bands on major labels. That was a fun fact that they shared on their little shared release day. So what else?
Should we do the news?
Do the news.
All right, here we go. By the way, give this podcast, BV Weekly, a good rating. And also go check out the BV Interviews podcast, where this week Bill talked to Kelly Stoltz. Kelly Stoltz has been making DIY pop out of San Francisco for over 25 years for such labels as Sub Pop, Third Man, and John Dwyer's Castleface. His latest solo album recently came out. First of possibly 3 albums out this year. And in addition to his own music, Kelly has spent time as a member of Echo and the Bunnymen and Robin Hitchcock's band, and produces other artists' albums, including the OCs. And so, BV Interviews, go subscribe, go listen. Kelly Stoltz, go catch up. There's tons of good interviews in the archives over there, especially about albums that came out this year. And so, all right, other news. We got to mention, it seems that the Angine des Poitrines impersonator band everyone has been talking about for the past week was actually fake news. I mentioned last week that a band in Russia was allegedly playing shows, not as a tribute band, but as impersonating the actual Angine. This was first reported by Exclaim, who talked to a guy who works behind the scenes with Angine. They've got quotes from that guy saying this was happening. Well, Stereogum did some further research, contacted the venue where this show happened, and Stereogum is now reporting that it was just, in fact, a one-off tribute band, free show that the venue did as a gag, a free show even. So maybe, a little fake news going on here. That news of, as Angine news will do, keeps coming into my feed. There's been so many people making reels that are like, Angine des Poitrines have an impersonator, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's
the feed is fake.
The feed is fake.
Honestly, it feels like the theme of the year.
Speaking of Angine, the vinyl of
the real one or the fake one?
The real one, the vinyl of their first 2 records, including the one that came out this year, that the same Exclaim we were just talking about said was the best album of this year so far, as we said last week. They are finally available on vinyl, their first 2 records. They started shipping this week. They've been on pre-order for months, much to the dismay of the Brooklyn Vegan Shop Warehouse, who have 1,000 orders to pack up of Angine records. They've been working overtime to get those orders out. If you want a copy, they are now in the warehouse. So go order Angine Volume 1 and 2 at shop.brooklynvegan.com.
Are there any polka dot variants?
There's no variants at all. It is only black vinyl anywhere.
Well, I guess black vinyl is kind of a polka dot.
You could say that. Jack White has quietly revealed that he has a new album called Frozen Charlotte coming out on July 10th, and the new single Dollar Bill is out now. Speaking of the Brooklyn Vegan Shop, we also have that one on pre-order, but we do have that on color vinyl. We have that on blue vinyl. So go grab that. And we're about to have a theme here because Interpol have announced a new album as well. This Mirror Weighs a Ton, their 8th album, and first for Partisan Records after over 20 years on Matador. This now makes them no longer label mates with This Is Lorelei, but instead label mates with Geese and Idols. Although I guess you're always still label mates, right? If you've been on a label, you don't become...
Well, if you're always still label mates, then we can add Fontaines to that list too, former Partisan band. But it's talk about like, I mean, Partisan has just been, killing it. And it feels like for Interpol to go join those ranks is like, Geese and Idols are in many ways Interpol's sons.
It's very cool.
So,
it's kind of like when Run for Cover announces they have a new AFI album or something like.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. Even though Partisan, Run for Cover also been around forever, but yeah, it's very like that. Mm-hmm.
Completing the trifecta, the Strokes, meanwhile, have announced that they are pushing back the release date of their new album a month to July 26th. The Strokes, and here's a fun fact I was figuring out. The Strokes played approximately 50 or more shows in New York City before Olivia Rodrigo was born. The Strokes have now announced a big New York City show. All those shows were at much smaller venues than this new New York City show.
I was going to say, in a way, that's like not surprising because they played Mercury Lounge like once a week.
They played Mercury Lounge a lot, Arlene's Grocery, lots of small venues. And they have announced but also before Olivia was born, I think they had among those 50 that it was like Radio City with the White Stripes and Hammerstein Ballroom with like whoever, the Doves. I don't remember.
The Beatles played Hamburg 50 times before Kurt Cobain was born.
There you go. The Strokes have also just announced a big New York City show at the Queen's Park near Citi Field that Gov Ball just happened at. They don't usually, we're talking about it's great that the festival's there. I don't remember, and you say Paul Simon played there, but I don't, or no, is that who you said?
Yep,
yeah,
Paul Simon.
I don't remember.
That was his quote unquote final show.
There's like multiple venues there. There's Citi Field, which is the Met, where the Mets play, and that's concerts do happen there. And then there's this smaller stadium where Nas is playing actually tonight, the day this podcast comes out, like arena stadium right next door. And then there's the park, which is a real legitimate park that Gov Ball just happened in. Now, just days later, the Strokes have announced they're playing in that park with a bill that speaks to the people who are indie rock fans in the 2000s like ourselves. Opening that show are Beach House, TV on the Radio, and one of my favorite new bands who I also just saw in that exact park the other day, Fcukers.
Kind of interesting that they're headlining it themselves because I think the Strokes have headlined Gov Ball more than any other band. They almost seem like the house headliner. So now that they're like, oh, we're so big, we can just headline this park without even Gov Ball.
Yeah, and it's on a very like kind of nostalgia-inducing bill there, except for Fcukers. But Fcukers kind of scratch a nostalgia itch for me.
No, but they're the indie sleaze revival.
And just even like a house, like 90s, they bring me back even farther. I've seen Fcukers open for LCD Sound System, and now you could see them open for the Strokes. Heavy noise rockers Chat Pile have announced a new album called Loves the Sun, which is coming.
Isn't it called Who Loves the Sun?
That's possible. If you could,
it's it's the same as the Velvet Underground song title. Who Loves the Sun?
Nice reference. And my notes unfortunately failed me. Which is coming September 4th via their longtime label home, The Flenser. I was wondering if after they released a single on Sub Pop last year, if they had switched labels completely, because Flenser is arguably a much smaller label. But nope, this new album is coming out on Flenser again, which is cool. They've also announced a big tour with Soul Glow and Shallow Water, which is also really cool. Brian Fallon of the Gaslight Anthem has announced a new solo album called Not Bad for New Jersey. I love that title. Out in September.
Yeah, that's what they said about the Nets when they moved to it.
It has guest spots on it from the Killers' Brandon Flowers, Def Leppard guitarist Phil Collen, Tom Waits guitarist Mark Ribot, Dr. Dog's Eric Slick, and country artist Lori McKenna. Brian is also playing a handful of solo shows this month, and then Riot Fest in September. There's 3 songs from that album out now you can go listen to. We've talked a lot about our love for UK indie country band Brown Horse and how good their live show was when they made their New York City debut at Nightclub 101 not that long ago. They've now announced a big fall North American tour 2 shows at Union Pool in Brooklyn, and the 3 previously announced shows with drive-by truckers included. Go check out those dates. Don't miss them. They said it couldn't be done, but Blink-182 have reactivated their MySpace page.
It's to promote the 25th anniversary edition of Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Yes.
Which finally gives a wide release to the 6 rare limited bonus tracks. True rarities, which I feel like are hard to come by for a band of that stature at this point. I'm excited because, as I have argued in my 20th anniversary retrospective of this album on brooklynvegan.com, at least 2 of those bonus tracks are better than the lead singles from the record. So I'm excited about this.
That's cool news. Show Me the Body always put together great tour packages, and they just announced another, this time with their industrial punk New York City neighbors, Lip Critics, another band who are on Partisan Records, plus hardcore bands Whispers, Jive Bomb, and Holder. Speaking of Holder, Balmora may have dropped off their current tour, but that New York City show at Woodshop the other day looked crazy and packed with Holder headlining. So that's awesome.
Holder, definitely one of the most exciting new hardcore bands to me this year. So I haven't seen him yet because, again, I kind of been on live show hiatus, but I have massive FOMO. I really want to see him. Love their the music they put out this year.
Charlie XCX announced a tour supporting her upcoming album Music Fashion Film with Underscores opening. Underscores had to cancel a few shows. You've been loving that Underscores album.
So excited about this pairing. I mean, it just feels like, I feel like it's the new Underscores record is a true sort of post-Brat album in many ways. So it just feels perfect. I hope that this results in Underscores being even more popular. It's funny because like I saw like Underscores have enough sort of a social media community fan base that like I saw this really funny tweet that was like, oh wow, Charlie XCX is closing for Underscores. So yeah, this is really cool. I'm really excited about it. You know, if Olivia Rodrigo is the coolest pop star right now, Charlie XCX bringing Underscores on tour is at least one more point on her scoreboard in the cool pop star competition. Not that it's a competition.
Mike D of Beastie Boys announced his debut solo album called Thank You, featuring his 2 recent singles and the newly released True Colors. You know, he's been playing shows as well, so it's been like a month of Mike D news. New York City-based comedian, filmmaker, and jury duty actor Edie Modica. If you don't know her but have seen Jury Duty Season 1, you can probably now already guess who this is. She's very funny in that show. She is set to unveil her debut comedy special called I'm Just Like You and It Sucks, exclusively on our friends Veeps on June 26th. Meanwhile, New York City comedian legend John Glazer also has a special coming to Veeps, which is being taped at the Bell House here in Brooklyn. So go get tickets to that. If you're in New York, you could be in the audience, or stay tuned for the Veeps stream info. And stay tuned for an interview with John coming to the BV Interviews podcast. Bill just recorded that like yesterday, and it should be out in a week or 2. He said it went really well. Some good stories from John there. We love John, longtime Brooklyn comedian legend. And now, I think that's all we got, Andrew. But, you know, we've been doing this series on 1996 albums, turning 30 this year, classic albums that you, Bill, and I recorded a few months ago. And we've been cutting them up into segments that we end episodes of BV Weekly with. We are finally at the end. And we have 2 more albums, one that you chose, one that Bill chose. And so I think we're going to get into that now. Yes?
Yes.
All right. It's been real. Later.
All right. Last one from me. Should we do it?
Let's do it.
Okay. My last album on the list is another rap album. Like I said, I have tried to keep the genres different, but when I did do repeats of genres, I tried to have them coming sort of different angles. And I mean, I guess, you know, mid 90s hip hop was so definitive. And like I said, there was the East Coast, West Coast rivalry. There was Outkast saying, hey, the South's got something to say. And big part of that West Coast rivalry was Tupac, who put out 2 albums in 1996. Would have only been 1, but when he passed away, they rushed the release of the second. We're talking about Tupac's All Eyes on Me, the last album released in his lifetime. And then the Don Killuminati, the 7 Day Theory, released under the name Machiavelli, which came out posthumously. Tupac was in jail. Jimmy Iovine and Suge Knight bailed him out on the basis that he signed to Death Row. And he does All Eyes on Me as his first album for Death Row. He's got all these big West Coast producers on there, like Dr. Dre and DJ Quick. And Tupac's originally from the East Coast, but he became a West Coast rapper. And this is his probably most distinctly West Coast sounding album. I mean, when you have Dr. Dre and DJ Quick on it, it's going to sound about as California as it gets. And of course, this is the album with California Love, but it's a double album. It's got so much more than that very popular song, as many people have said over the years about this record. When you look at the Tupac Biggie rivalry, I feel like Biggie's thing was just like the levels of swag. And then Tupac was the more conscious rapper, like he had the more like, he was the Malcolm X, And then on this album, people talk about how it was less of a conscious album, more talking about like the sort of gangsta lifestyle that he lived, and with both the poverty he was raised in and the riches that he accumulated as a famous rapper, and lots in between. But I would say that like it's sort of misrepresenting this album to say it's not conscious. It's kind of everything. It's conscious. It's party music. It's violent. It just kind of has all the aspects, I think, of Tupac's life. An incredible selection of beats, and it just reminds you why people have Tupac in their top 5, because he raps like no other, unless you count how many people obviously have stolen his flow over the years. I mean, he just has such a commanding voice. Again, it's hard to praise someone like Tupac because it's like praising the Beatles. Similar to electronic music, hip hop gets dated kind of quickly, I think. This is an album, I think, compared to a lot of the other great rap records from 96. Every time I put on All Eyes on Me, I'm like, you could tell me this came out in 2003. It could come out now too, but like it really kind of sounds a good 5 to 8 years ahead of its time, in my opinion. And then, Tupac Biggie rivalry, Tupac is shot dead. I can't believe he died at 24 years old, because he accomplished way more by 24 than most people ever by twice that age. The Machiavelli record is one of the best Tupac records, I think. It's a really interesting follow-up to this one, because Dr. Dre had parted ways with Death Row at this point. He's not one of the producers. The producers aren't really big names. All Eyes on Me is full of big guests, including Snoop Dogg. There are really no big guests on the Machiavelli record. It's just Tupac's own group, the Outlaws, pretty much. It's a shorter album, it's just like more direct, but there's a really good J. Cole quote about this album. It's on the Wikipedia page for the album, but it's just sort of like J. Cole is saying like the something like the older he gets, the more he sees like how much this record was just kind of like Tupac just kind of bearing it all, being super honest, really showing the picture that was him in his life. And I think that's one of the big reasons this album is, I think, so interesting and so important, is it just kind of feels like, he had done the big grand albums more than once. And this just kind of feels like just Tupac at his most honest. And it's really unfortunate that he didn't get to see the reaction the world had to it. And because of stupid streaming service things, it doesn't come up on the Tupac's page, it comes up as Machiavelli. So, make sure that you realize it exists if you are finding your music on streaming services. Yeah, sometimes I feel like this is like the clearest, most unfiltered snapshot of Tupac. Really big and tragic year for one of the greatest rappers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, even for someone like me who wasn't super dialed into hip hop, this was like an unavoidable record, whether you're listening to the radio or turning on MTV, or, and in some ways going to the movies too. I can't remember what year Poetic Justice was, but he was a burgeoning actor at the same time. He also made that movie with Tim Roth where they were like junkies. He was a great actor. He had so much potential. It is completely wild that he was just 24 when he died. I don't know Machiavelli as well as I know All Eyes on Me, but that's it's a great record for sure.
It's true. 25, by the way, not 24. I had this.
Okay.
I better fact check that. I think Biggie was 24.
Still wild.
Still wild. I mean, especially because, again, like I'm always coming back to this, but I found out about them both after they had both died. Same thing with Kurt Cobain, where they just always seemed like accomplished adults to me. So then when I became the age of all those people, I was like, wait a minute, like this is how young Biggie and Kurt Cobain and Tupac died.
My last 1996 album of this series is Everything But the Girl's Walking Wounded. And this is pretty interesting to me in that this record came nearly 15 years into their career when most bands will be winding down. They found new life. If you don't know the whole story, Ben Watt and Tracy Thorn formed Everything But the Girl in 1982, around the same time that they started dating, and they're now married, and they've been together ever since. And early on, Everything But the Girl were very minimalist. They mixed bossa nova, samba, vocal jazz, which was a perfect style for Tracy Thorn's instantly identifiable smoky vocal style. Then an early fan in Paul Weller, who had just formed his post-jam group, the Style Council, and he sort of brought Everything But the Girl under their wing, and they would play in the Style Council at the time. But by the mid-90s, they had kind of turned into what they used to call adult alternative. Expertly crafted, but very safe pop music, maybe just a little sleepy, the kind of stuff you heard on VH1 in the early 90s. But things started to change with their 1994 album, Amplified Heart, which introduced some electronic elements. Ben Watt had become more interested in dance music culture, and he was starting to DJ. He had a party called Buzz and Fly that was popular in England. I'm maybe getting my chronology a little off here, but they had a song on that album called Missing, which about a year after it was released, this house DJ and producer Todd Terry did a remix of, which became a worldwide smash.
Can you sing it?
I could, but we might get a copyright strike if we do that. So, because I do it, you know, some people, if they aren't looking at me, they're like, is Tracy Thorn in the room? And I'm like, no, it's me. It's me.
Well, for those who aren't sure what Missing is by the name, And I Miss You Like the Deserts Miss the Rain, key lyric in the song. Probably, hopefully, even with my deep voice, that put it into your mind.
Yeah.
It did for me.
Huge worldwide smash. Yeah. Like the deserts miss the rain. And also around this time, like the same year that Amplified Heart came out, Tracy Thorn was one of the featured vocalists on the second Massive Attack album, Protection. So things were all sort of funneling this way. And when they went to make their next album, they just leaned completely in on dance culture, and Walking Wounded was basically fully electronic. In addition to working again with Todd Terry, you know, who gave them their hit, they also used Spring Heel Jack, Howie B, and some other people to produce. And it was the same, it had the same bones, the same sort of sophisticated pop that they had always written, but now it came with a beat, and it was an extremely natural fit for Tracy Thorn's voice and just the sort of melodies that they did. I think it's their best album, and certainly their best album to me since their debut album, Eden. And though a lot of dance music sounds like 1996, and I guess this does too, there's a level of sophistication here which makes this record extremely evergreen, and I think it still sounds great today. And it's, to me, this is just one of these quintessential 1996 albums.
I was going to say, despite starting in 1984 and this not coming out till 1996, that, like you said, alone is kind of mind-blowing. We were also super surprised when Everything But the Girl came back and released a new album in 2023 even, which is, you know, you could say that 2023 album came out, well, what's the math, like 30 years after Missing, but it's even crazier that it came out
20 years after their last They made one more record after Walking Wounded, and then basically just called it quits.
Yeah.
And usually when it's a couple who's in the band, it's because they broke up. No, they just decided that they didn't want to make music together and do any more Everything But the Girl records. But yeah, they came back, and now they're actually playing these like small shows in London. They haven't played anywhere else but London. They're just sort of doing it for fun, but they've moved from playing this place called the Moth Club, which holds about 200 people, to I think they've got shows this summer that's somewhere that's like 1,000-seat theater. So maybe they are finally inching their way back into more proper shows with maybe some more backing members, and possibly they'll play somewhere besides London. We can hope.
And this album came out in 1996 that we're talking about. Like Missing was still, I'm going to keep going back to Missing. If I'm being honest, I loved that song. That's mainly how I know them. I'm not sure that I knew this album when it came out, but it was actually the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards and the 1996 Brit Awards and a few other award shows that same year that they were still winning awards for Missing, like Best Dance Video of 1996, or at least nominated, best-selling song. So this album like came out right at the right on the like.
Yeah, it's weird. Missing was like this. I think by the time that the Todd Terry remix came out, I think the record was kind of dead in the water in a lot of ways, and then this just became the song that wouldn't stop going.
Yeah, exactly.
And it still hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely heard it in DJ sets as recently as the last 12 months. It's one of those like, it's a timeless.
And if that's the only song that you know by Everything But the Girl, and fair enough if it is, Walking Wounded is in the same mold, but it's not like them just trying to replicate Missing 12 times. There's definitely some like down-tempo stuff. They use some jungle and drum and bass things. It's a really cool record. The songs are great. Definitely worth checking out.
Awesome. Have we done it?
We did it. Let us never talk about 1996 again.
Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BB Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at brooklynweekend.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. So until then, thank you again, and see you next time.